Okay, hi everybody. Welcome to another English class here on Verbling.com. My name is Lisa, and I'm one of the English teachers here. And in this hour, we're going to be having a reading class. We're going to be reading an article together, and I'm going to be reading out loud so that you can listen and hear how I speak and see if you can understand when you are just listening. But you're also going to read along, and you will have a turn to read out loud. And then, of course, we go over the vocabulary and expressions and things like that so you can understand the article with my help and also maybe learn some new words and some phrases and expressions. So if you have a reservation, you can go ahead and use the reservation now. If you don't have a reservation, that's okay. You just wait 2 minutes and then you can join by clicking on the Join Class button. So, hi there, Sergio. Welcome.
Hi Lisa, how are you?
I'm doing pretty good. How are you?
I'm doing pretty good as well.
Yeah? Good.
Finished my job for today, and yes.
Nice. Do you usually have a time where you like to finish by? Like since you're working from home, like I'm gonna stop at a certain hour or something? Yeah.
Yeah, I can usually do that.
Oh, good. Yeah. Yeah. How do you ever go into the office or anything, or is it always from home?
No, today, not today, but I usually, yes, work from home. Actually, my the office here in Brazil is in São Paulo.
Oh. Uh-huh.
Yeah, but yeah, usually I'm working from home.
Oh, okay. Wait a minute. You're in Sao Paulo right now?
No, I'm in Rio.
Oh, you're in Rio right now. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Okay. Okay. Nice.
But actually, for São Paulo folks, those employees live in there,
Uh-huh.
and or when you have like a meeting or important meeting or like a change, actually once a quarter
Mm-hmm.
we have to go there. Yeah.
Oh, okay. So you have to go from Rio to Sao Paulo to meet with like a team or something like that?
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So are you like the main representative for the Rio area or
Yes. Actually, I'm responsible for 3 regions in
Oh,
Brazil.
okay.
Yeah, and but for just for one carrier, a
Oh.
player like like AT&T and
Yeah,
I,
phone service
yeah,
carrier.
I'm responsible for the Team Brazil,
Okay. Yeah.
and yes, for northeast and east area regions. Yeah.
Oh, okay. Northeast and east regions. Is that the carrier that you're providing the service for? Is that huge? Like a big, huge like a lot of customers?
Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
Now I'm responsible for three different channels.
Oh.
Customer, enterprise, and business is like a
Uh-huh.
middle level, like
Mm-hmm.
consume and enterprise, big companies, and the
Right. Enterprise level.
middle. Yeah.
So enterprise level and small, like more like small businesses, maybe too.
Yes. When you we considering like enterprise is like a Coca-Cola,
Oh, sure. Like huge corporation or something.
yeah, yeah, yeah. And
Okay.
consume is like a person,
Consumers. Yeah.
consumers, yeah.
Yeah.
And
Customers.
corporate is like a small and middle business
Oh, okay.
companies.
Small or we say mid-sized
Yeah,
businesses.
with size.
Okay. I see. All right. So, how are things going in the market?
Yes, actually we have decided, yeah, already, I think 1 year ago, to
Mhm.
focus on where we are. Actually, it's differential in the mercury
Mm-hmm.
when you are really strength.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like we call it MDM, mobile device management.
Okay, yeah, MDM.
That's you can manage all smartphone in your company. You know.
Okay. Oh wow, all of them?
Yeah, yeah.
Wow.
Now we can yeah, you can manage of course BlackBerries,
Yeah.
iPhone, Apple, iPhone,
Yeah.
Android, and that.
Uh-huh.
And I think in November we start to manage Windows Phone as well.
Oh, okay. Wow. All right. You're gonna be busy then. All
Yeah,
of
yeah, yeah.
those services. Good. Well, okay. Well, let's read this article. I don't know what's going on with Verbling. My computer's been a little bit crazy, but maybe somebody else will join us. We had a couple of reservations for this hour. Let me see if I can get this to work here. This is, I don't know if you looked at it ahead of time. It's interesting. This is Steve Jobs, of course, no longer alive, no longer with us. But it's an interesting article that was been being talked about recently about Steve Jobs and his kids, and the fact that he didn't really allow them to use unlimited media. So he restricted their use. So we'll talk. We're gonna read it together, and then we'll talk about it and see what you think. Sergio, do you have any kids?
No, no kids.
No.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So you can tell me if you agree with him or not what he did. All right. So let's get started. All right. So Steve Jobs didn't let his kids use iPhones or iPads. Here's why. Steve Jobs is a name which is synonymous with cutting-edge, innovative, and groundbreaking technology. So it may come as something, as a surprise. Actually, I don't know, they wrote it wrong. This is the proper expression. It may come as something of a surprise to learn Apple's former CEO didn't believe in letting his kids use some of his company's greatest products, the iPhone and the iPad. And it's not because the Apple Godhead was a closet Samsung fan either. Okay. Hi, Alejandro. You joined us. Welcome. We're just getting started. Hi. Okay, Sergio, why don't you start us off here?
Okay. Steve Jobs didn't let his kids use iPhones or iPads. Here's why. Steve Jobs is a name which is synonymous with cutting-edge, innovative, and groundbreaking technology. So it may come as something of a surprise to learn Apple's former CEO didn't believe in letting his kids use some of his company's greatest products, the iPhone and the iPad. And it is not because the Apple Godhead was a close Samsung fan either.
Yeah. Okay. All right. So apparently he didn't let his kids use iPhones or iPads, or maybe not even that much. All right. So if something is synonymous with, it's like it means the same thing. So a synonym is usually two words that mean basically the same thing or something very similar. So Steve Jobs is synonymous with these different ideas because we think of him as being very innovative, creating new things. These are all words that mean basically the same thing. Cutting edge, you're on the cutting edge or the leading edge of technology if you're creating new products all the time. And groundbreaking. So you're making new things that nobody else before has created. It comes from the idea that you're breaking ground. You're moving forward into some new territory or something. So in terms of technology, these words apply to Steve Jobs. That's what everybody thought when he was alive. So it may come as a surprise. So this is an expression. It may come as something of a surprise. So you might be surprised to learn that as the former CEO, so former means he was in the past but no longer now, he didn't believe in, so he wasn't supportive of letting his kids use the iPhone and the iPad. It's not because the Apple Godhead. So the Godhead is kind of like a figurehead, you know, the most important person at Apple, the Apple company. It wasn't because he was a closet Samson fan either. So closet means like hiding, like a hidden or a hiding Samson fan. If you're a closet, for example, you could say I'm a closet New York Yankees fan. So you really like the New York Yankees, that's a baseball team, but you don't tell anybody. So you're in the closet about it. You're hiding that. Jobs, who died in 2011, may have had an instinctive flair for technology, but he was a low-tech parent who firmly believed in restricting his children's access to electronic devices. We limit how much technology our kids use at home, said Jobs way back in 2010, expressing growing concerns about his children's gadget use. Okay, Alejandro, you want to read?
Yes.
Okay.
Jobs, who died in 2011, may have had an instinctive flair for technology, but he was a low-tech parent who firmly believed in restricting his children's access to electronic devices. We limit how much technology our kids use at home, said Jobs way back in 2010, expressing growing concerns about his children's gadget use.
Great. All right, so let's say he had an instinctive, so instinct is like your gut feeling. It's what you think, like it's not really thinking, it's just what comes to you inside. We don't really know where it comes from exactly, but he had an instinctive, so it's just like it was because of him, who he was, he had a flair for. So a flair for means kind of like a talent or a gift. He just knew things about technology, things that people would like and how to do cool stuff. So even though he was that way himself, he was a low-tech parent. So low technology. Tech is short for technology. So he's low-tech. So high-tech means you like all the gadgets and all the latest technology. But if you're a low-tech person, you don't really use a lot of gadgets. Maybe you have a computer, but you don't have everything, you know. So he believed in restricting. So to restrict means to limit. So to say, you know, maybe you can only have screen time for an hour or 2 hours or something like that. So he was restricting their access to. So they couldn't use electronic devices just any time they wanted. They had only some limits. So that's another word here. He says we limit how much they use. So a gadget is anything, pretty much anything really, but technology gadgets are all the things we now have: smartphones, iPods, iPads, tablets, different types of little gadgets that we use all day long. Okay. As all modern parents know, iPhones and iPads are extremely appealing to children. These little handheld devices are state-of-the-art toys, surrogate parents almost, capable of entertaining, distracting, and pacifying children during school holidays and on long car journeys when mom and dad's attentions are focused elsewhere. Yet, instead of thanking Apple for these extremely convenient parent assistants, should we actually be concerned about the potential harm they may be inflicting upon our youngsters? Okay, Sergio.
Okay. As all modern parents know, iPhones and iPads are extremely appealing to children. These little handheld devices are state-of-the-art toys. Surrogate parents almost capable of entertaining, distracting, and pacifying children during school holidays and on long car journeys when mom and dad's attention are focused elsewhere. Else,
Hmm.
elsewhere,
Elsewhere. Hmm.
elsewhere. Yet, instead of thanking Apple for this extremely convenient parent assistant, should we actually be concerned about the potential harm they may
Hmm.
be inflicting upon your
Our youngsters.
youngsters,
Youngsters. Yeah.
youngsters?
All right, so we all know, it says, that these gadgets, the iPhones and these iPads, are extremely. So here, they're talking about how much, how appealing these are to children. So extremely means a lot. They're very appealing. So very appealing, really appealing to children. So it just means children really like these little gadgets. They're very appealing to them. So if something is appealing to you, it just means that you like it. You really like it. All right, these little handheld, so you hold them in your hands, they're handheld devices, are state-of-the-art toys. So if you describe something as state-of-the-art, it means that it's like the latest, greatest thing, the best thing that the developers have been able to come up with or to develop so far. So as time marches on, human beings keep creating more and more and newer things. So every year you have a new state-of-the-art toy or device or something. Okay, surrogate parents. So it's like a substitute. So a surrogate is somebody who kind of steps in and plays that role. So as these iPhones and iPads are almost like parents. You just give them one of them and it teaches them stuff and keeps them busy and all these things. So they are capable of the iPhones and iPads are capable of entertaining, distracting. So you get distracted when you're supposed to be looking about or looking at or thinking about something else, and then you look at your phone, you check your email, you're getting distracted. So it's like the opposite of focus. When you're supposed to be studying, maybe you get distracted because you get a message or a text or something like that. Also, they're good at pacifying children, so calming them down. So it's very popular these days if you're taking a long car journey, a ride in your car, going somewhere, give your kid an iPod or something and they'll be quiet and calm for the trip. They'll just listen to music or play a game or something like that. And then when mom and dad's attentions are focused elsewhere, so somewhere else. So especially when you're as a parent, you can't talk to your kid because you're driving or you're working or doing something else. You can plug them into the iPhone or the iPad that takes care of them. But here's the question. So instead of thanking Apple, should we maybe be thinking about or concerned about? Concerned means you're worried about it. The potential or possible harm. Harm is like danger. Are these things maybe dangerous to our children? Youngsters is a word for young people, so children. To inflict harm on somebody means to hurt them. So are these things hurting our children? Steve Jobs certainly appeared to think so. In a New York Times article published this week, journalist Nick Bilton recalls how he once put it to Jobs that his kids must love the iPod, but to his surprise, Jobs replied, "They haven't used it. We limit how much technology our kids use at home." Okay, so then this guy says, the journalist, that's the guy who's talking here, "I'm sure I responded with a gasp and dumbfounded silence. I had imagined that Jobs' household was like a nerd's paradise, that the walls were giant touchscreens, the dining table was made from tiles of iPads, and that iPods were handed out to guests like chocolates on a pillow. Nope, Mr. Jobs told me, not even close." Okay, Alejandro. Your microphone is muted, Alejandro.
Okay.
There you go.
Steve Jobs certainly appeared to think so in a New York Times article published this week. Journalist Nick Bilton recalls how he once put it to Jobs that his kids must love the iPod, but to his surprise, Jobs replied, "They haven't used it. We limit how much technology our kids use at home." "I'm sure," I responded with a gasp and dumbfounded silence. I had imagined the Jobs household was like a near's paradise, that the walls were giant touch screens. The dining table was made from tiles of iPads, and that iPads were handed out to guests like chocolates on a pillow. "Nope," Mr. Jobs told me, "not even close."
All right. So this sentence is answering this question right here. So, should we be concerned? And so apparently, Steve Jobs certainly. So when you say certainly, it's with you're very clear that it's true. So certainly appeared. So he obviously thought that it was, because he limited his own children's use. So it appeared like that. That's what it looked like. And so in the New York Times this week, somebody published this article where they're reporting that Steve Jobs said, replied. So a reply is an answer. So he's interviewing Steve Jobs. He was interviewing when he was sometime in the past. They haven't used it, so they don't even know what at that point they hadn't used it, and we limit. So again, he's saying directly there that we limit their technology use. So the interviewer, he responded with a gasp. A gasp is like that when you make a voice and you're like surprised, like shocked, and it dumbfounded means like you don't know what to say. You're just kind of so surprised that you're silent. So he had dumbfounded silence because he had imagined. So he had this vision in his mind, that's in his imagination, that the household, the place where the Jobs and his family lived, it would be like a nerd's paradise. So a paradise, of course, is like the best place, where you want to live, paradise. And a nerd's paradise would be all the technology and kind of geeky things that nerds, science and technology nerds really love. So it'd be like that. And so then he describes what that might look like. Giant touch screens. Those are, touch screens are the screens that you touch, that like on the iPad Touch or iPod Touch. And he just had this vision of what, there could be all this technology here. And even if you were a guest there, they would hand out or give you iPods as if they were chocolates. Like on in some hotels they give you chocolates on your pillow for the guests. But nope, he said it wasn't even close. So not even close. It wasn't like that at all in his house. And Jobs wasn't the only technological guru who had substantial concerns about the long-term effects of kids engaging with touchscreen technology for hours on end. Chris Anderson, former editor of Wired, also believes in setting strict time limits and parental controls on every device at home. "My kids accuse me and my wife of being fascists. They say that none of their friends have the same rules. That's because we have seen the dangers of technology firsthand. I've seen it in myself. I don't want to see that happen to my kids." Okay, Sergio.
Okay. And Jobs wasn't the only technological guru who had substantial concerns about the long-term effects of kids engaging with touchscreen technology for hours on end. Chris Anderson, former editor of Wired, also believes in setting strict time limits and parental controls on every device at home. Excuse me. My kids accuse me and my wife of being sexist. They say that none of their friends have the same rules. That's because we have seen the dangers of technology firsthand. I've seen it in myself. I don't want to see that happen to my kids.
Mm-hmm. Good. Okay. All right. So he wasn't the only technological guru. So a guru actually means like a teacher, but here when you say it in the U.S., it means like kind of like an expert or a kind of a famous person, famous teacher. So he wasn't the only one. So of course he was a guru of sorts, but he wasn't the only one who had substantial, so significant, a significant amount of concerns or worry about the long-term effects that it would have on kids. Engaging with, so when you engage with something or with somebody, it means you're interacting with them, you're talking to them, or in this case it just means playing with the iPod, for example. So if you engage with technology for hours on end, it could have some long-term effects. So that's what they believed. And so this guy, Chris Anderson, he's also the former editor of Wired magazine. That's a technology magazine here in the United States. He also believed in, so we see this a lot, you believe in something. It's like that's what your belief is. That's what you think is true. So he thought you should set strict time limits. So, you know, let them play for an hour or two, but not just unlimited hours. Of course, fascist, that's similar in other languages. I think you guys know what that means. They're, you know, being very strict. They're being unreasonable, something like that, because their other friends don't have to follow the same rules. But we have seen the dangers. So you have here. This means we've experienced them. We've seen them and experienced them first hand. So not second hand. Second hand is when somebody just tells you. But if you see something or experience it firsthand, it means you actually saw it with your own eyes, or you had that experience yourself, not by reading a book or something like that. If you hear something secondhand information, that's when you read it in a book or you hear it on the news or somebody tells you that this thing happened. So it's firsthand or secondhand information or experiences. Okay, so he doesn't want it to happen to his kids. So he doesn't want them to have that kind of negative experience. All right, let's move this down a little bit. Researchers at the University of California, Los Angeles recently published a study which demonstrated that just a few days after abstaining from using electronic gadgets, children's social skills improved immediately, which is definitely food for thought, considering recent research showed that an average American child spends more than 7.5 hours a day using smartphones and other electronic screens. Wow. Alejandro.
Yes. Researchers at the University of California, Los Angeles recently published a study which demonstrated that just a few days after abstaining from using electronic gadgets, children's social skills improved immediately, which is definitely food for thought, considering recent research showed that an average American child spends more than 7.5 hours a day using smartphones and other electronic screens.
Okay. So recently published, so whenever they put out a study to the public, they publish it in some kind of journal or something like that. So it's out into the public now. So this is what they demonstrated. So what was shown or demonstrated in that research, in that study, was even after just a few, so a few means like maybe three days or so, after abstaining from, so you abstain from something, it means you stop doing it. So if you abstain from using electronic gadgets, that means you don't use them. If you abstain from alcohol or, smoking or something like that, it means you stop doing it for that amount of time. All right, so what happened was their social skills improved. So maybe being able to communicate with other people, being friendlier, that type of stuff. It got better immediately. All right, so he says this is definitely food for thought. So we should be thinking about this. Food for thought means something you should consider. You should be thinking about this. That's what we call food for thought. So we should be thinking about this recent research, considering that the American child spends more than 7.5 hours a day. So using smartphones and other electronic screens. So that might be computers, TVs, things like that. So Jobs was undoubtedly a genius, but he didn't get that way through staring at screens and playing Angry Birds until the early hours or constantly updating his Facebook account. Walter Isaacson, the author of Steve Jobs, that's the book, spent a lot of time at the Apple co-founder's home and confirmed that face-to-face family interaction always came before screen time for Jobs. Okay, Sergio.
Okay. Jobs was undoubtedly a genius, but he didn't get that way through staring at screen and playing Angry Birds until the early hours or constantly updating his Facebook account. Walter Isaacson, the author of Steve Jobs, spent a lot of time at the Apple co-founder's home and confirmed that face-to-face family interaction always came before screen time for Jobs.
Okay, so undoubtedly. So un means not or without. So in this case, it means without a doubt. So undoubtedly a genius. So yes, we all know, of course, without a doubt, without even thinking about it, we know he was a genius of a sort, but he didn't get that way. So he didn't become a genius. He wasn't able to, become a genius through staring at screens. So when you stare at something, that means you just look for a long time at the same thing. So kind of really looking at it, staring at it, or playing Angry Birds until the early hours. So he didn't do that either, or constantly updating. So he wasn't always looking at his Facebook page and typing new posts and things like that. So constantly means all the time, and of course updating is when you post something new to your Facebook account or your wall or something. Okay, so the guy who wrote his book, this author, he spent a lot of time at his house, so he confirmed. So when you confirm something, you say, yes, this did happen. So he confirmed that there was a lot of face-to-face, so people actually talking to each other, not with looking at screens instead. So interaction is when you talk to somebody else, and so that was always important to him. It came before screen time, so he preferred to do the face-to-face family interaction rather than watching screens. I'm going to move this down here. The quote is from the Isaac Watson. Every evening, Steve made a point of having dinner at the big, long table in the kitchen, discussing books and history and a variety of things. No one ever pulled out an iPad or computer. The kids did not seem addicted at all to devices. So the next time the advertising department at Apple, Samsung, or any other major technological corporation attempts to subliminally convince you that life is somehow lacking without their latest little device, remember that the man who started it all believed somewhat differently. Okay. Alejandro?
Yes. Every evening, Steve made a point of having dinner at the big long table in their kitchen, discussing books and history and a variety of things. No one ever pulled out an iPad or computer. The kids did not seem addicted at all to devices. So the next time the advertising department at Apple, Samsung, or any other major technological corporation attempts to sublimely convince,
Subliminally, yeah.
sublimely,
Sublimely, yeah. Sublime.
sublimely convince you that life is somehow lacking without their latest little device. Remember that the man who started it all believed somewhat differently.
Mm-hmm. Okay, good. Hi, Sildis.
Hi.
Hi, how are you? Welcome. We're just reading here, and we're actually almost finished, and then we're going to talk about it. So let me just go over some vocabulary, and then we'll be able to talk about it. And you'll be able to talk too, because we're going to talk about the idea, not necessarily just what we read. Okay, so every evening he made a point of. So this is an expression. To make a point of is to make sure that you do something. So if you think about it, he's coming home, he's having dinner, so he wants to make sure that everybody sits at the table and they're going to discuss books, so to talk about books and stories and things that they were reading, history, and also a variety of things. So lots of other things is what they would talk about. So they would discuss different things, and no one ever pulled out an iPad. So to pull out means to, bring it out onto the table and play with it or something like that. So none of his kids or him or his wife, they never pulled out an iPad or a computer to work on. Instead, they just kept eating and talking. His kids did not seem addicted at all. So if you are addicted to something, you need to be always using it, or you're always thinking about using it, or something like that. So you can be addicted to a lot of things. So, but they were not addicted to devices at all. All right, so here's a little like a warning from the author, or kind of not really a warning, but like a notice kind of thing. So, the next time the advertising department, so advertising is marketing, if they try to convince you, sublimely means like very subtly, like they don't just come out and tell you, but they use, pretty women and music and things like this to try to convince you that you need to buy these things and that your life is going to be lacking without it. So lacking means you don't have it and you need something. You're not going to have something that you really should have. So a lot of marketing is kind of about convincing people they really need this thing, or else they're not very smart, they're not very beautiful, they're not very cool, stuff like that. So he says to remember the man who started it all. So the guy who developed the iPod and the iPad, he believed somewhat differently. So he did not necessarily believe that you always needed to be with your gadget or your computer or your device or whatever. Okay. So before we start talking about it, do you guys have any questions about the language, any specific words maybe you wanted me to explain? Anything? Nope? Okay. Yeah?
No, just saying, in the end, I think that there's like lacking without.
Yeah, lacking without, yeah. So what he's saying here is, when advertising departments, when they try to convince you that your life is somehow lacking without, so there's something wrong because because you don't have this device, their latest, like the iPhone 6 just came out, so some people I didn't see their advertising for it, but sometimes when the newest thing comes out, the advertising is kind of like, hey, get the newest, latest, greatest thing, be the first kid on your block to have the best new iPhone, something like that. So it could convince a consumer, that if they don't have it, they lack it. they lack it. They're missing out on something, and your life is somehow, not fulfilled. So you should go out and buy it right now, so you'll feel better. So yeah. So if you are lacking something, it means you don't have something, and your life is not so wonderful because you don't have it. But it's not really true, of course. So they just try to convince you of that. Something.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So lacking. Okay, let's go. We'll just move it up to the top. But what do you guys think about this? Sergio, what do you think about, I mean, you work with technology, it's part of your business and everything, so what do you think about, especially children, I guess? So this is mainly about the idea that children, are using these devices a lot, and some people believe that they shouldn't be allowed to use them for so many hours a day. Would you have any concerns about that?
Yeah, first I'm like, wow, I didn't know that. I read something like just a title, but I not read the article, and I have the opportunity, and yes, I was like the same way, for this guy. Like I thought that in Jobs' house, everything,
Yeah.
controlled by. No BlackBerry, Apple, iPhone or iPad, and but this is something I believe in. When you have a kids, children, you like this, they growing up like using every single day, every single time, like anything like video games or smartphone. They probably will become unsocial, like for sure when they become adults or adolescents, they have lacking of to be socialized with social life, and maybe he's like scared about something, like to talk with another person or in a professional way, like we have to make a relationship. Way a big issue for them.
Okay. In Brazil, do you think that, well, we read about the United States, so American kids are spending, almost 8 hours a day, like a job, on their computers, on their screens. Do you see the same thing in Brazil?
Yes.
Yeah?
Definitely, okay. I see.
Are the smartphones and iPods, are those popular, or what do people use the most?
No. I think it's iPhone is the number one. iPhone and Samsung as well.
Okay, but smartphones in general, just.
Yeah, in my smartphone in general.
Yeah. Okay. Just because this.
Actually, today, today, if you maybe, I will just present you with a normal phone.
Right. What's that? Yeah, it's amazing how quickly we adapt to the new stuff, and the old stuff is like very, very old, and we don't recognize it.
After each release or launch for iPhone.
Yeah.
This is like the page turned out. Turn over?
Yeah, a page. Yeah, a new page being turned, Yeah,
definitely.
Turning over, definitely. Alejandro, what do you think about young kids and technology? Do you think they should be limited?
Well, I don't know. The technology run very fast.
Mm-hmm.
On the other hand, mm, the human being run very slow.
Yes, we can't keep up. Yeah.
I don't know. I don't know the future
Hard to know. Yeah.
going to. I don't know.
Yeah, it's hard to know the future and what's really good or not because it's happening so quickly compared to the thousands of years that human beings lived without these things, iPods, smartphones, and now there's something it seems like we can't live without. And the children, of course, want to use them for everything, all the time. So.
Yeah, we always are fighting.
Yes. Yes, it is a fight too because when you limit somebody's, their kind of what they can or can't do, you get a fight sometimes because it's very important to them. Yes. Sildis, what do you think about technology and kids using it so much during the day? Do you think that's a problem at all?
Yes, I think everything should be done in moderation.
Okay.
Including the use of various gadgets.
So, Sildis, are you in Moscow?
Yes.
And are you working or are you a student?
Yes, I'm working.
Okay. And so, when you were growing up, did you use computers or very much technology?
No, I didn't have my own computer till I was 20, more than
Yeah.
I don't remember.
So in your 20s maybe?
Yeah. Yes.
Okay. And do you use a smartphone now?
Yes, I have 2 smartphones and 1 iPad.
Oh, okay. So you have some gadgets.
One iPhone and the second phone is Android phone.
And do you use them like every day?
Yes, I must admit, I use my smartphones very often.
So, Sildis, do you have children?
No, I don't have children.
If you had children now, would you limit their use?
Yes. I think it's very important to have a schedule, to have a daily schedule when you use your smartphone for a limited amount of time, but another time you need to do some other things.
Sure. Yeah. And so when you are outside, out on the town, let's say in Moscow, do you notice teenagers and kids using smartphones a lot?
Yes. Kids use smartphones all the time.
Mhm. Yeah. Yeah.
And sometimes they replace the usual communication between people. People sometimes don't know what to do uh, when they meet other people.
Mm.
They instead prefer to look at their smartphones.
That's true. Have you ever been to a restaurant and you see like everybody's looking at their phone instead of talking?
Yes, yes.
Yeah. That's what I see a lot when I go to a restaurant. And the thing is it doesn't matter, you know, it doesn't matter what culture they're from. Everybody's doing the same thing. You know, if you're in the United States, Brazil, Spain, Russia, France, you know, Mexico, it's the same. People are just, you know, texting and paying attention to their own thing instead of talking to each other. Yeah, it's very common. Sergio, do you ever do that when you're out with your friends?
Definitely. Yeah. You know, a couple of years ago, I scheduled a meeting, but in a business lunch, you know, and
Mhm.
there was there was maybe 6, 7 managers
Mhm. Mhm.
from Team
Yeah.
Brazil and different channels, and
Yeah.
they everybody testing or maybe using BBM or and
Yeah.
I looking and oh, what's happening here? And I, guys, okay, come on, turn
Yeah.
off, and let's talk,
Yeah.
because
Yeah.
like I just waiting like 5 minutes, and everybody, oh man, what's going on?
Yeah.
And I'm too. I was in the question as well,
Yeah.
and then I realized, oh, okay, let's start because it's impossible. Oh,
Yeah.
yeah, but usually this happening, in the restaurant.
Yeah.
Yeah, when I start working for BlackBerry,
Yeah.
and this is almost 7 years ago,
Uh-huh.
and when they like SM, oh, it's, Hotmail, there's a famous chat,
Oh,
mm,
I don't know what it was.
mm,
Kind of
MSN,
MSN. Yeah. Okay.
MSN,
Yeah. That
yeah,
was it.
MSN, yeah, and yeah,
Yeah.
oh yes, it's finished MSN and we start BBM. Maybe
Mm.
it's the boom for BlackBerry in the world, and
Yeah.
oh, and like, oh, Serge, come on, stop, and okay, and 5 minutes later, I was. That's like a wow, over the world. Something I can teach text for everybody in the world.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. It's amazing.
It's,
Well, it's
yeah, but you
amazing.
have to keep in
Yeah.
mind
What do you have to keep in mind?
the social life.
Oh yeah. Your
No,
social.
that's all. We are this person, and wow, man, stop.
Yeah, it's true. Alejandro, do you use a smartphone?
I have a smartphone, but I don't usually use it.
Mm. Mm-hmm.
Um, it's boring for me.
Boring for you. Yeah. So do
I
you?
pre-
Go ahead.
no, I prefer talking with people.
Uh-huh. Like the old days.
Yes,
Yeah. Yes.
the
It's
situation is very sad. I
mm,
don't like.
you don't like it. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, it's interesting because maybe some people are forgetting how to have a conversation, you know, because they just want to text to somebody else rather than talk to the person that they're sitting next to. You know, like in this picture, we see these girls are probably friends, but right now they're very busy doing something else instead of talking or, you know, with each other. So this is a very common kind of thing.
And they are losing
What about you?
many skills
Yes, maybe. Yeah,
to
losing skills.
related. Yes, it's
Uh-huh.
very sad. For me, it's very sad.
Yeah. So did you want to say something?
Yes, what about you? How do you feel about this?
Alejandro?
Yes,
He wants to know where you're from.
I'm from Spain. So I don't know.
Lisa?
I don't understand the question.
Is that what you wanted to know, Sildita?
No,
Or Sergio?
no, I asked you about your feeling about this.
Me? Oh,
You,
about
Lisa.
for me? Oh, yeah. Yeah. It's hard. It's a hard one for me too because I have 3 kids and they definitely have iPods and computers and they spend a lot of time on them. And I have done a lot of different things. So when they were very young, they didn't have any computers or TV or iPods. But as they got older, then I allowed them to have more. So like when my son was 13, he got an Xbox 360, but he was 16 and the other ones were, 13, and you know the other 2 were like 11 and 9, so they got to it sooner. And now everybody, they have their own everything, and it's hard to limit it. Even though I tell them to get off. It's very hard because I notice it's hard for them to find something else to do. Yeah, that's the hardest thing is they don't want to read books really. They go outside a little bit, but when I was younger, I read a lot of books and I played with friends more, and the problem is that a lot of their friends are doing the same thing. So nobody's out on the streets hanging out, playing with each other. They're all inside the houses. Yeah. Yeah. What do you think, Sergio?
I think it's sometimes for some. Yeah, I think for some maybe some parents, this is a good way, to keep your children close.
Yeah.
Close you and maybe safe.
Yeah.
Depend on the living.
Yeah.
And yes.
Yeah, it's kind of like the pros and cons, Some good things about being safe and staying, close to home, not out on the streets, getting in trouble. But on the other hand, it's very focused on the interacting with computers versus interacting with nature or people. So at least people in person, because they interact with people on the media like we're doing right now, Yeah. Okay, guys. Well, we finished up our hour. Thank you for coming to class. Does anybody have any last-minute questions? Here's a guy playing golf while he's talking. Crazy. Okay. Okay, thanks, guys. I'll see you next time.
Thank you.
Take care, everybody.
Thank you.
Bye.